for each
kind
instance
of the way
Flash?
that Chrome's doing it in their new releases.
Right. Okay.
But I would say that Opera won on that test, which is good. All right, let's go to another test. This test, it tries to slow down your...
Before we move on that test, you were saying on the Firefox test, this was something we covered last time we tried to tape this, one I'm going to now. Firefox does horrible on this test, but that's Firefox 3.
Yes.
Firefox 4 seems to have fixed the problem where Flash would, where you'd crash. Because right now a problem on Firefox, especially on Linux, is...
Well, this test that I'm talking about, the one that likes your browser, doesn't necessarily use Flash. It uses a bunch of stuff, including Flash and JavaScript to try to lag it.
Okay, never mind then.
This is just total, just lagging your browser, everything it can throw at you. But, yeah. And this actually tries to affect your computer to the point where you will have to restart your computer. This is made for Windows, so it was at no point did I have to, with any of the browsers, have to restart my computer. And in fact, with only one of the browsers did it actually affect my computer where stuff besides the browser was slowed down. So
I'm honestly wondering, given the way Linux tends to work, if that's even possible. If through overloading a browser you could crash the Linux distro. Because, I mean, I've had catastrophic failures of Linux applications and even core parts of my Linux GUI, and I haven't been able to actually crash a distro yet.
It's not crashing the distro. It did make, like, if I'm using the browser and I'm using another application, let's say I'm typing something up on OpenOffice or clicking stuff and searching stuff through Nautilus, it slows down if I'm using Aurora, which did affect the computer. I have the other applications are slowed down because of this. I don't know why, but it absolutely did happen. It did. There's no dispute. It slowed down. Anyway, Aurora, the browser, became fully unresponsive. It did affect the computer. That is the only one that affected the computer. Midori, it did become fully unresponsive, and so did Epiphany. With Chrome and Chromium, it did not become fully unresponsive. I did notice a little bit of pages taking longer to load and being a little bit more laggy, but not a huge deal. As soon as I closed the page, it instantly stopped doing that, and I had full control over the page. Opera, however, did in no way become unresponsive, even on the page with a bad script. It did not affect the computer, and I could use the other tabs fine. There was no noticeable effect. I tried a bunch of things, and I could not notice effect. An interesting thing, did I talk about Firefox yet?
No.
Alright. Okay, so Opera did great, and I would say it won the test, except, first I'll say that Firefox, when I did Firefox 3.6, 3.6.6, it had significant lag. It became unresponsive for 7 seconds at a time, and it did I did have to let the script continue. You know, it did, a little box popped up that says this is making this unresponsive, but if I let it continue, it did significantly lag my browser. Firefox 4, however, did exactly the same as Opera, and I could not notice no matter what I did.
I would argue in Firefox 3, that's the whole reason for that pop-up coming up. Because ideally, in a perfect world, everybody would write their web pages so there were no script errors, but we know that's not the world we live in.
But I mean, I don't know if this is even the browsers making the pop-up come up, because every single one of the browsers had that pop-up come up.
It's just a simple logic test. It's usually triggered by getting into some kind of infinite loop or something.
Yeah, but all the browsers had it pop up, but I did allow it to continue to run, and if Firefox I did have to make it continue, but the Firefox 3.6.6, it did lag significantly with these Firefox 4. Alright.
Jordan, can you think of any reason why it'd do so much better on that, or?
Not particularly. I wish I could.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Alright. Let's move on to a crash test. This is supposed to crash your browser in every way it can. And it is, I believe it's an old test because all of the browsers were shown to pass, but there were some interesting things to note. So, with every browser, with the exception of Opera, files were allowed to be downloaded without me allowing that. However, with Epiphany, it did something interesting where it was able to execute a program on my computer without my input. My script editor automatically opened up with a script that would have crashed the browser if it was run. So, if my default program for opening scripts automatically ran scripts, that would have crashed the browser. And in theory, this exploit in Epiphany could be used to do a lot more than that on your computer.
Yeah, when you said that, I was glad I'd never heard of Epiphany. I was glad I hadn't messed with it. I realize you don't have root. If anything, this is a reason everyone running Ubuntu should be upgraded. Should be updated to fix the gain root access exploit in Ubuntu and other stuff like that. I would be interested to know on the auto download of file one if you went and changed the default setting, like in Firefox by default, it just auto puts everything in that download folder. If you changed it to ask you where to save it, since it's asking for a response from you, would it still download it to the last place you saved something, or?
I think that with the correct settings, I don't think that Epiphany would have allowed an external program to happen either. But I don't think that most people really mess around with the settings that much. This is just default browsers, Virgin installs, with the exception of Chrome. This is just the default settings. If you change the settings, I've heard of people being able to make Firefox be faster than Chrome for JavaScript with a few changes in the code. Anyway, and also you can change a few things in the code and make Firefox get 100% on the ACID 3, which it doesn't. Neither does Firefox 4.
Well, it's like, even if you could change that, I don't know what your opinion is on that on Jordan, but if a browser will allow execution of script, even if I'm a limited user, that's an unacceptable compromise. Just because I can't possibly think of a way, I can't think of any valid reason a web page would need to be doing that.
To be able to execute a local script, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in HTML5. All you're trying to do is access something. You're not trying to access a script. You're trying to access a thing. That's entirely different. So that's unacceptable that allows that at all. That's I wish we could tell people if you're using this browser what setting to change, but since I haven't ever messed with it, I wouldn't know.
And the thing is, this is up to personal opinion. Some people don't like how Opera looks. A lot of people are in love with the add-ons that Firefox gives you. So,
and honestly, I think at the end of the day, the stuff we're talking about is the last thing the average end user thinks about when they pick a browser. It shouldn't be, but it is. It's like you're talking about. I know a whole score of people that as of Windows 7 decided they wanted a different browser than IE because the menu bar disappeared on IE8 and Windows 7 by default. Like they upgraded from XP to Windows 7 and there's no menu bar. You can turn it on, but they didn't know that. And they said, I want a browser that has one, so they went and downloaded Firefox because they wanted a menu bar. It's stupid things like that Grandma cares about, not...
You know what?